Welcome back, Troglodytes, to another episode of Trogly's Guitars. Today we have a 1980 Gibson SG Standard. Alright, so a 1980 Gibson SG here. The SG was first introduced very early 1960 as a complete replacement for the Les Paul. And from then it went through so many changes through the 60s with varying different tremolo units, ebony block. There's a lot of different SGs out there in the 60s, I think 4 or 5 different variants. And then the 70s came along and they kind of looked like this, except for they still had the input jack on the front. I think toggle switch was like here or something like that. Well, in the 80s, Gibson was doing a lot of innovations, so to speak. They changed up the SG, as we'll discuss here today, but they also, made a new version of the Flying V and the Explorer. So check out some of the videos on the V2s I've done. I don't think I've ever done a video on an E2 before. But, SG, or Les Pauls were going back to more 59 style with the Heritage series, so they wanted to do something new with SGs. And what did they do new with SGs? They did the best thing possible. They moved the input jack to the side. This is why I personally love 80s SGs, because one of the weak points of an SG, besides its heel breaking, is the input jack. When you have it on the front, you accidentally step on it, it cracks your guitar right there. So that's why a lot of old vintage SGs, you'll see a nice big crack by the input jack. They fixed that in the 80s and finally put it on the side, and that is why I love 80s SGs. So let's go ahead and take a quick look at this guitar. We'll start with the headstock up here. The headstock is in pretty good shape. You do have minor string change wear, as we'll show you here, as it hits the light. Mainly kind of just small scratches in this area. Overall, it is fairly clean. The lacquer has not aged too much, and something else about this one is the cherry hasn't faded hardly at all. Underneath the pickguard, it's just about the same color. Usually these will fade to like a walnut color. You got the SG on the truss rod cover there. And then the fretboard, you have your block inlays all the way up and down the neck. Frets are in good shape. The frets and fretboard are in great shape on this example. The frets do show very minor wear and tear over the years of playing, but overall it wasn't played too much or too hard. As you can see, I just oiled the rosewood fretboard and it plays nicely up and down. You can see some minor damage to the fretboard that we'll kind of show you here. I mean, it's not damage per se, but you do have like a few small indentations. Kind of got like a little circle there, but nothing too bad, just minor wear and tear from playing, like you got a small little divot there. But overall, it's in great shape, plays nicely, frets, show very minimal wear, you're good to go. To the body here. Original tarback pickups, I think they're called Series 7 Super Humbuckers. You have your original Nashville styled bridge, and your original tailpiece here, and it's set up as kind of an overwrap for easier bends. You can definitely change that back if you don't like it. But overall, the top is in pretty good shape. You've got, your average small little dings like right there, which is nothing too bad in general, and just average play wear, I would say. And there's a scratch right here. And some dings. I mean, it's not a mint condition guitar, but it definitely maintains a clean appearance. And you've got a ding up here in the cutaway, as you're seeing there. And some scratches on the pickguard and whatnot. Some very light pitting to the chrome hardware. But overall, it is fairly clean. And I'll let you take a look here at what you see in the lighting. On to the back of the headstock here. You can see it's taken a little bit of a hit here. You've got a little tiny chunk of wood missing, but the rest of it's just kind of through the finish, nothing too bad. Serial number is 82060508. Made in USA. And since this is an early 80, you actually have the Gibson branded Schaller tuners on this one. This is much better to get. I don't know what it is about like the mid 80s. I think it's around 83 when they switched to a different style tuner, which I just feel looks really cheap on guitars. I don't think they have any pilot holes for their screws. I don't know, it's just something about them, they look cheap. I love this Schaller style tuner that they used up until about 82 or so. 1980, you still have a pretty small volute, but it is there, which I love volutes on guitars. But once again, just average wear and tear, small few nicks and dings like right there, and looks like you got a few scratches, but nothing too bad in general. We'll go on to the neck. This was a player's guitar. We'll try to get it out of the light. That way you can see that you have a little bit of finish wear there where the clear coat has worn away and you can feel the bare wood. You also have a little bit of a deeper area right here as well, where that's a little more rough feeling, whereas this is still smooth. You really don't feel it. Whereas this one, you can feel it if you're going for it, but while you're playing the guitar, unless you have your thumb all the way on the bottom, which you might, that'd be the only time you'd really feel that. Definitely a slim 60s style profile neck on this one, and it's great for fast leads. You'll probably want to set it up to your liking. I would say it's got medium action right now. Right, and now on to the back of the guitar. Really, the back's pretty clean as well. As I shine it in the light here, you're going to see some light nicks and dings and scratches, but overall nothing too bad. I'd say the worst of it is right here, where there's a little bit of finish missing. Looks like a ding that chipped it a little bit. And you've got some buckle indentation in this area as well. But overall, not too bad. You can see one of the seams. I think this is actually a 5-piece body. You can see one of the seams there, but not a break, crack, or repair. On the front, you can see it as well, right there. So that is there, but completely natural once again. Now, all the pots have been changed, except for maybe one of them. I couldn't really read the date code. It looks like it almost said 77. So we're just going to go ahead and say they've all been changed. And the input jack, I don't know if you can hear that. It moves a little bit, but it still functions just fine for putting, your input lead in there. I tried to tighten it from the inside, but I was unsuccessful to get it super tight. You do have some wear and tear on the edges here, as you're seeing. Some light nicks and dings, but overall this is a player's guitar. I mean, if you're a collector and you don't mind some honest play wear, it wouldn't be too bad. But I would consider this a very clean player's grade version, because you do have some dings through the finish. But overall, it's nothing too bad. So to recap, 1980s Gibson SGs are the best SGs for players because they have the input jack on the side. They have the same pickups as like the 70s ones. I'm sure they modified them a little bit throughout the years, but these are very solid guitars. They have really cool vintage vibe, and they're not quite as expensive as you'd think they are. However, prices have been rising on these guys, so don't miss out on this one. We'll do a quick blacklight test here. Headstock is good, front of it. Fretboard and all that's good. Take a look at the front of the body. All original there with original speed knobs. Here you can kind of see some of those dings I was talking about. A little bit more clearly on the front. But overall, just very few light dings. The back of the headstock shows where some of the finish was worn away at the top, as I mentioned earlier. You can see our serial number a little bit better, and you can see a ding there between the tuners. But the headstock has not been repaired, thankfully. But you can see some of the wear on the neck and where the finish was kind of worn through in that area from playing. It looks like you can see an area where a stand kind of burnt it there. A non-nitro safe stand, not an actual burn, but like a chemical burn. And there's that area where the finish is worn through on the neck as well. You don't have any heel breaks or anything on this one, as you can see. And the back of the finish, the back of the guitar's finish is also original. A little bit of a ding there. And some wear that might be from a strap there. So, all in all, you've got some finish wear on the guitar, but no breaks, cracks, or repairs. This beauty weighs 7 pounds, 1.6 ounces, which is just about right for an SG. This guitar comes with an era-correct Gibson Generation 3 chainsaw case. It is missing its back latch here and the Gibson logo, but it is an original Gibson one. This front latch does work, but it doesn't secure 100% properly because the plastic is kind of dented here, as you can see, so it doesn't allow for a firm close. I mean, this is still good for carrying the guitar around. It does, close all right, but that is an issue you should know about. This one works just fine, though. It does have a blue interior here, and the interior, it's seen better days. It's kind of got some, gunk on it right here that might scratch the guitar, but I haven't seen too many issues with that so far. I mean, this is not the original case for this guitar, but it is era correct. Something else to mention is this is kind of, the flap here is kind of coming up. Someone at one point in time drilled these down, but I was scared that I was going to scratch the guitar, so I took those out. That could easily be glued back down, but honestly it functions just fine without anything. So it does fit the guitar just fine, and these Generation 3 cases are the best cases to ship guitars in. I personally really like these cases for shipping guitars, and they're pretty good for storage. I think the only bad thing about the Generation 3 is they're pretty clunky, as in big. I mean, that's about twice the size of a regular case. So if you have a large collection of Gen 3 cases for your guitars, it definitely takes up more room, but they are fantastic protective cases. Now that we've seen what this beauty looks like, let's hear how she sounds. you enjoyed this video tour and demo. If you think you might want to be the next owner of this gorgeous guitar, feel free to contact me on my Facebook page, facebook.com/Troglys, Trogoys, or check out the Reverb or eBay listing. I hope you troglodytes enjoyed, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.